Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us for Up Close and Cultural with Dr. Carrie Say. I'm sorry, I have all of these messages coming up. Thank you guys for joining me on TikTok. I just put it up there. I'm going to throw the link in a second. With that being said, you guys can follow us, follow me Up Close and Cultural with Dr. Carrie Say on KUAW Radio. That is knowledge, understanding, and wisdom. You can follow KUAW Radio across all of the socials. That is Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter. Hold on, I am turning this down. Sorry about that. Which one did I leave out? And Twitch. That is the one that I left out. I always leave out Twitch, but again, that is KUAW Radio across all of the social media platforms, as well as KUAW.org if you want to log in via the internet. So with that being said, we are all impacted by the culture, whether it is music, politics, government, or entertainment. And this is where we talk about it on Up Close and Cultural with Dr. Carrie Say. So with that being said, there is a lot going on in the media right now, and it is overlapping into our daily lives, into entertainment, into just even how we are driving our cars right now. And I know we talked a little bit about it the last time I was on 2 weeks ago. For those of you who don't know, your first time joining in, I am on the first and third Sundays. Every Sunday, first and third Sundays every month, I'm in on KUAW Radio. And I keep repeating that because I have people on TikTok who are asking me that, as well as sending me emails. And I am posting this on a link on Facebook as well. However, there are some updates on what we talked about on the last session that we had. Some pretty disturbing ones, as a matter of fact. But also, I received some emails about some of those things that we'll get into in a second. But there is one piece that came up. And it really does remind me about why I named this Up Close and Cultural with Dr. Carrie Say, because I know it gets kind of hard, or cumbersome rather, following the news a lot and trying to keep up with everything that goes on, and then trying to piece everything together, and then trying to figure out how it all affects us. And that's what I'm here to do. So for those of you who have not seen it, Ford Motor Company, they applied for a patent. And it is, well, first they apply for patents all the time. I think their attorney actually, in his response, said that they applied for over 1,300 patents last year. Well, and all of them were granted, as a matter of fact. Well, this particular patent that they applied for, and they didn't give it a name, but what this patent does is it will allow them to patent the technology that will enable a vehicle to drive itself back to any destination pending a repossession. And I say any destination because they put in a few scenarios. So basically what will happen is, if you are late on your payments, if you are behind on your payments and they want to repossess your vehicle, or to say that they want to patent the technology that will, which is the self-driving technology. Now, we all know that that technology has been out forever. So they aren't trying to patent the self-driving technology. We all know that most cars have that. The Tesla, both of my cars have it. So they're not patenting that. They are patenting the technology that will allow the car to drive itself wherever they want it to go if they are trying to, or in the event that they are trying to repossess it. So those scenarios will be this. So say you're behind on your payments for whatever reason. Ford wants to be able to, one, either take your vehicle out of your driveway and move it on the street so that the tow truck can come and get it. Because as you know, the repossession laws vary from state to state. So like I'm in the Kansas City metro area, just for an example. The repossession laws, and I looked this up. So the repossession laws from Kansas and Missouri, they vary. So in Missouri, you cannot pull into a person's driveway. And then in Kansas, you cannot go onto private property. The tow truck driver can, if they're trying to repossess a vehicle. So they can't come, your own personal home is your private property. So if the tow truck driver is trying to repossess your car, it has to be on the street, which is public property, in order for them to get it. So Ford wants to be able to start up your car remotely and drive the vehicle, have the vehicle to drive itself out of your driveway onto the street so the tow truck can get it. So that's one scenario. The scenario that I find very disturbing, and there's a lot of questions behind that, which is why I spent so much time doing a deep dive into this, is that the other scenario is that if your car is in your garage, Ford wants to be able to also use the technology. And think about this: if you have a newer model car, you have all of the bells and whistles on your car, where you can use the buttons and hook those buttons to your garage, to the lights in your home, to your doorbell, the Ring technology and the Google Nest and all those things. You can connect those directly to your car. And so whatever you give access to your car via those buttons, then the car company has access to that technology as to those buttons as well. Of course, they have access to the technology, it's their technology. So with that being said, if you think about it, what Ford wants to do, or what they will have the ability to do, is the same way that you push that button to open up your garage when you come home, as opposed to using your garage door opener. Ford wants to be able to take over your vehicle, open up your garage, and have the car to either move onto the street. So again, same situation will take place where the car is in a location where the tow truck can come and get it, or it will drive itself to the nearest tow lot, or drive itself back to the dealership where you bought it from. They've listed a few scenarios, and I just find that so disturbing for a few reasons. Because the fact that a company can take over your vehicle and be able to have access to my home is crazy to me. It is unsafe to me. And I'm just not okay with that. Just to be able to repossess it, that is such an infringement of my rights and of my privacy. So think about this. And this is disregarding anything about a payment. We'll get to that later. because there are laws to protect you behind that as well. Because that is, and that's why I say it's an infringement of your rights and the law. So what happens is, what if your children are home? And who's to say that this technology is going to secure your home back? And this technology leaves your home unsecured, and your children are home, and or no one is home. And now your garage is left up, or someone at Ford is using this for some reason that is nefarious, or you have hackers who can hack into the system, and now your home is vulnerable, and this can cause all kind of robberies and all kind of break-ins. Or what if you are getting ready to go when this happens and your child is in the car, and Ford has enabled this repossession process to start, and this car drives off with your child in it? That is not okay. Or what if your child, your pet, whomever is outside, and they have enacted this repossession process and someone gets hurt or harmed? Or what happens? We all have seen what has happened with Tesla. And this car crashes, this car runs into things, all sorts of things happen to this car when it starts driving itself. And what happens if this car is damaged? And this is the other thing. Ford wants to now say, which works to their advantage and not yours. If you're so far behind, if you are behind on your payment, which, let me say this first, when you go and you buy a car, the dealership decides whatever you pay for your vehicle. And we all know that there are predatory lenders out there, and you can pay more for a car than what it's worth, far more than what it's worth. And we know that that's called being upside down on a vehicle. And a lot of people sometimes have to do that because of bad credit or not enough income. And, not knocking those programs, because, I'm glad those programs are out there because they do help people who need it. However, what happens is, when it's time for repossession, if that ever occurs, then Ford has the technology to say, hey, they owe too much on this vehicle. I know that the vehicle is not worth, I'm for it. I know that this vehicle is not worth that much money. So rather than fooling with these people anymore, I want this car to go to the junkyard, and I'm just done with it. And so they've already decided how they want this to end. They aren't even allowing you the opportunity, because you already went into this knowing that you already got a 22% interest rate, on this, and that maybe you are you're working on your credit, and you are going to apply for a loan at your credit union and then take care of the situation later on, whatever the case may be. Or maybe you aren't. Maybe you just set yourself up to just go and pay this thing off and just take the hit. I don't care what it is, but the point being is that you no longer have any say-so in it. Ford has not only taken advantage of the fact that you have already probably paid what the car is worth already. So they not only have your money, but they also have the car back. And that is unfair to you. And you're in a worse position than you were when this first happened. So it's just a lot. And then also think about this. Think about for the person who's applied for bankruptcy. So bankruptcy protects you from, it immediately stops repossessions, it stops foreclosures, it stops any kind of debt collection whatsoever. It stops the phone calls, it stops court filings, it stops everything. And I don't mean it stops when the person finds out. It stops the moment that the bankruptcy is filed. So the moment that the court files your paperwork, that is when all of the debt collection ceases. So regardless of when Ford finds out about your bankruptcy, you are protected. So Ford still, if they have not found out about your bankruptcy, but they still come and repossess your car and have gone through this entire process, then they have infringed on your rights because you've been protected already. So, and before, and I see, this comment on here, and it's not about getting over, because when you say you file a Chapter 13 bankruptcy, Jay, if you're filing a Chapter 13 bankruptcy, then that's reorganizing your debt. So all you're doing is combining everything. And then in situations like that, then what the trustee at the bankruptcy court is going to do is get rid of that ridiculous interest rate and put all of your bills together. They get rid of all of those ridiculous interest rates, and you're paying what that particular thing is worth. You're paying what your house is actually worth, what your car is actually worth, what you actually owe on your credit card, what you actually owe on your boat, whatever the case may be. And then you make that particular payment. And you make it to the trustee, and then the trustee makes the payment to that company or to that person every month. So, you never know why a person, there are different types of bankruptcy, not just Chapter 7. And then there are even guidelines behind that as well. So it's not all about getting over, because a lot of times supporters say, hey, you have to give those people their card back. I'm not an attorney, but everything is not a monolith. There are loopholes to a lot of things. Well, I won't even say loopholes. That's just the law. That's just how it works. But anyway, with that being said, exactly, that's what I'm saying. Hatonia on TikTok, that will be a wrongful possession. That is a wrongful possession, because once you have filed for bankruptcy, then you are protected. You are absolutely protected until that bankruptcy is taken care of, because that debt could have been discharged and you would still have your vehicle, whatever the case may be. And Ford is completely in the wrong. And so this is the other thing. This is the catcher, which I think is the craziest thing in the world. And I cannot even, and I want to temper the way I say this, because Ford is a great company. I actually interned with Ford when I did undergrad at Tuskegee. And I know that Ford dumps a lot of money. I don't want to say dump, but they contribute a lot of money into STEM, especially when it comes to HBCUs, Tuskegee University being one of them. And not only that, but when you make the commitment, and I don't know if this is for all HBCUs, but I know for Tuskegee, when you make the commitment to work for Ford, when you graduate, then they buy you a car. They give you a car. So your senior year, for the year before you graduate, you're coming back with a whole brand new car. So yeah, those are the things that Ford does. So let me say that I know from personal experience, I didn't graduate and work from Ford. That's not what I wanted to do. But I know people who did, and I still see what Ford does for Tuskegee University. So this is not a dig or hit at Ford. I just don't like what Ford is doing with this, because I don't like to fall back from it. Thank you, Hilda. So this is the thing, and I question the person's sanity of who came up with this idea about the trigger process. What they're saying is, well, this isn't going to happen out of the blue. We are going to set up some key features in the vehicle to let you know that we're coming to get it. One of those is we are going to set off this alarm in your car. So you can just be driving one day and this alarm is going to start going off. They didn't say how long or how often, but you're just going to have this alarm going off. So, of course, me being someone in the mental health field, what if you have a child who has a neurological disorder, which is very, very common? So please understand that I am not jumping to any kind of broad conclusions. When I say a neurological disorder, I'm talking autism. I am talking any neurodivergent or anyone that's just easily triggered. Or what if you're just driving and you hear an alarm go off? Do you understand how dangerous that is? Someone suffering from PTSD. Okay, we are coming off of a national pandemic, not a national, but a global pandemic. Why in the world would someone want to set off an alarm in a vehicle and then let it go off at all of these arbitrary times? That's just one. And then not to mention you have a child who is autistic and there are all of these loud noises going on in the car. We're not even going to get into that. That's just one piece of it. They also want to be able to control the air conditioner. So you can be driving and they want to be able to turn the heat up if it's hot outside. They want to be able, it's not funny, but I just don't know whether to laugh or cry because again, like I said, I don't understand how in the world it is sane for Ford to allow someone to even come up with this kind of technology and then put it out. Because why do you think it's okay for you to even want to make, and that's the point, they said they want to make the ride as uncomfortable as possible. So if you're in the Midwest like I am, where temperatures can get below zero, if it's freezing outside and you're driving in your Ford vehicle and it's being repossessed, you can have this alarm going off and it's 3 below zero and Ford wants to make it 15 below zero in your vehicle. So not only do you have this alarm going off, but you are freezing in your vehicle. And then they also want to be able to possibly have the thing to shake. They want the steering wheel to shake or your vehicle to shake while all of this is going on. So now you're riding down the street with an alarm going off, with the temperature dysregulated, and with either the steering wheel while you're driving, the steering wheel or the seat vibrating. There is no telling what kind of accident that can cause. And then from the fallout with all of that, again, me being in the Midwest, and say you're driving in inclement weather and you're driving in those sub-zero temperatures and there's ice, black ice, whatever the case may be out there on the ground, and now you can't control your vehicle, or you're just driving and the steering wheel starts to shake and you lose control of your vehicle. And now you've had an accident. And we're not even going to talk about the worst case scenario where someone is deleted or you deleted yourself because somebody at Ford has decided to now make your car shake. I mean, it's just ridiculous. I can't understand. I can't understand the sanity behind it. I really can't. Yes, Hurricane, I am live. I can't understand it. It's just the oddest thing in the world to me that this is even an option. But all of this is in the patent. So you can definitely look it up, because what happens in the patent process is that when you go to the USPO and you apply for a patent, a part of the patent process is to make it public. And the public gets the opportunity to comment on it. And you all, please go to this site and please voice your concerns with this, because this is insane. And then think about the younger drivers. Think about your teenage children who will be subjected to Ford drivers who may be going through this, but they're on the street and they are next to, behind, beside, or what if their friends are driving Ford? They're in the car with these people. This is dangerous. And I don't understand why Ford would do it. And then they have the audacity to, I wouldn't have put this out there. I'm sorry, I just wouldn't, because it is just clearly insane to me. This is just the craziest thing in the world to me. I just don't get it. I just don't get it. I mean, it's, and the thing about it is that for them to be able to implement this, so please don't think that this is some Jetson stuff, and I might be telling my age, but this is not some new age technology that's only available in newer vehicles, and that you will have to take your car into a Ford dealership for an upgrade. No, they are able to use the current technology. And that's a part of the patent too. They're saying that whatever computer technology that you are currently using in your car now, which is what I said before, the just simple quick technology that you use to control the remote access to the garage, to the Sirius radio, the Pandora, whatever the case may be, whatever controls your home, all of that technology, even the features that can lock and unlock your door. Lord knows my foreign vehicles, they do everything, every single thing. And when I tell you, when I finished reading this, I turned everything off because it scared the bejesus out of me. I mean, it just really, because that's too much. I know we have gotten spoiled with technology because it makes everything convenient, and it's a wonderful thing. It is a wonderful thing to be able to have everything at your fingertips, and it is great to have cameras on your vehicle so you'll be able to survey the area. And I love the fact that I can see I can see the kids' bikes, or that I can see the cats. Because, you know, those little things are little ninjas. I can see all of that, and that I have all of the bells and whistles when I pull out of the garage. I love that. But it scares the bejesus out of me that those same things that are so convenient and make my life so easy could also be weaponized now. And I'm concerned. I'm so concerned with this. So again, it's in the process now, where Ford is now with this patent. And then after that, go to the USPO, the United States Patent Office, and voice your concerns about this, because this is crazy. This is crazy. Again, this is not about the self-driving technology. The self-driving technology has been out for decades. That's not anything new at all. Things have been driving themselves around forever, even before it got to the cars and we had access for it. It's not about that. This is about Ford being able to patent the technology to repossess your vehicle and to do all of the things that I just mentioned, and how it's dangerous. It's just very dangerous. If you're fine with that, then be fine with it. But I am telling you that it is dangerous. And what they actually put into it is saying if the owner persists in ignoring all of the messages that are sent, then the vehicle would, in the words of Ford's patent applications, initiate execution of a multi-step repossession procedure, which includes features like the air conditioning, cruise control, which means that they are remotely from some location that you have no idea about, will take possession of your car while you are in it. While you're in it, and will be able to change the speed limit of it. That is insane. Your radio is going to start, it's going to stop working. Or they may be able to turn it up really loud, or be able to make it to where whenever you decide to turn your radio on, that it is so loud to where you just will not want to use it. Oh, and then this is the other feature, refusing to unlock its door. And so that has to be against the law, because if you are still in possession of the car, if you don't have access to it, then that has to be a violation of your rights. They cannot, so they can lock you out of your vehicle. That's crazy. That is crazy. That they are basically making the car unusable. And again, there are things such as bankruptcy and whatever. Say that there's an emergency. What if you have a medical emergency? Ford does not know what's going on with you. All they know is that they want your vehicle back. And it's none of their business what's going on with you. This is just too much. It's just too much. I just don't understand how this is okay. I just really don't. But again, because I'm running out of time, I would advise you to look into this, because no one should be able to patent this, because it shouldn't be allowed to happen. This is one of those things where if a patent is to be had, then it needs to be one of those things that maybe that the government should have, only because that is, our standard governing body, where no one should have access to it, because that's too much. That's just well too much, wholly too much. But with that being said, we'll move on. The Jim Crow law, I wanted to talk about that as well, because that is deeply, deeply concerning. And I have put out, I have contacted the mayors on both sides of the state line. Again, for those of you all who don't know, I am in the Kansas City metro area. So I sit at the border, Kansas City, Missouri, Kansas City, Kansas. I hit both. And I put out, because I want to discuss this with both of the mayors of those cities, because what has happened is in Jackson, Mississippi, the legislature in the state of Mississippi has voted to create a white appointed court system for, and they're calling it the blackest city in America. That city is Jackson, Mississippi. So Jackson, Mississippi is the heavily, densely most populated city in America for Black people or African Americans, however you choose to identify them, want to cover the whole gamut. So what has happened is again, the white legislature in the state of Mississippi, and I want to say that again, they have decided that they want to appoint a totally different court system, totally disregarding the current court system that they already have, and come up with their own white appointed court system to govern the Black people, but for the white people who live in Jackson, Mississippi. And it's called House Bill 2020, House Bill 1020, or House Bill 1020. Now, it has already passed the House and is headed to the Senate, and it's expected to pass because both houses, both the Senate and the House, are Republican led. And it passed, the bill passed 76 to 38 earlier in February. And I don't know the date that it is scheduled to go before the Senate in Mississippi. But I will have to look that up. Now, Jackson, Mississippi, they have a Black mayor. And again, the city itself, it is predominantly Black. It has a Black prosecutor, Black everything. What they are trying to use as an excuse, which there is no excuse, is that because of the crime rate and yada, 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 as if it even matters, is that they should step in. And that it is a public safety issue. Well, even if it is a public safety issue, then why don't you get behind the current governing body that is already there? If it is a public safety issue, why in your mind do you think that it is okay for you to now form an entire different government, separate and for white people? If that's the case, then we as African Americans, as Black people, should be able to pull ourselves out of this corrupt system of the government and the police state that is disparaging to us right now for all of the ills and the things that we have gone through and are currently going through right now. I mean, can you imagine that? Can you imagine us as Black people going, which we already do, screaming all the time, this court system, this system of injustice is not for us. Nothing happens in the system of justice for us, from police brutality, from the disparities in the sentencing, the disparities in just the population of the prison system and the jailing system. Despite the fact that we are the minority population, we have the majority population that is incarcerated. So nothing about it is fair when it comes to us. But can you imagine if we said that we wanted to separate and have our own governing body, which the Panthers have said we've always wanted, okay? It has never happened. However, this is what the legislature in Mississippi has gone and done. And it just looks like it's gonna happen. I don't know, and I haven't had a chance to do a deep dive into this. I am going to have to talk to some of my legal friends about this because I don't know if this is one of the cases where maybe the federal government can step in and say that this is not okay, because I also know that the federal government, the way our government is set up, that states are allowed to govern themselves. But this just does not sit well with me. I don't understand how it's legal for a state legislature to pass a law for a city, for one particular city, for them to say that we are going to come in and take over an entire city and disregard the current court system and come up with our own court system for white people. And they have no problem saying this. They are saying the quiet parts out loud. And that is why they're calling it the Jim Crow law. And so with this happening in Mississippi, this is transcended up here close to me in St. Louis, Missouri. The same thing has happened with the state of Missouri, where we also have a Republican-led House, a Republican-led Senate, and they are attempting to take over the city of St. Louis as well. They are trying to oust or take power away from the district attorney for the city of St. Louis, who is African American or Black, and just totally take away all of the power, come in and regulate, dictate, and decide what happens in the city of St. Louis. And I want to say I don't get it, but I do. We know why they're doing it, because they're taking us back to the Jim Crow era. I mean, there's no way to eloquently put that. And that's exactly what needs to be said. That's exactly the term that needs to be used. These are Jim Crow laws, okay? And they are trying to take us back to where they were in total and complete control, and where we had no right over anything whatsoever. And when it happened in St. Louis, and again, notice that I'm mentioning these cities that are densely populated with Black people and ran by Black people in high positions. When it happens in one city, there's this trickle down effect. They're watching. They know what they're doing, and it's planned. It's planned. If you go back to what happened with Roe v. Wade, when Roe v. Wade was overturned, everything came out, and you saw how, or for those of you who didn't, I encourage you to go back and watch how everything unfolded over decades, how it was planned to where certain judges were put in place, certain prosecutors were put in place. So when it was time for a vote, even onto the Supreme Court, that the people were put in place to where it would be voted, because the case for Roe v. Wade was not even about overturning. It wasn't even about overturning Roe v. Wade, but it was a loophole to make it happen. This was about something happening in a particular state, but it was a loophole in that allowed the Supreme Court to overturn Roe v. Wade. So there is something happening in this country right now. And again, it is something very, very dangerous that we need to wake up and pay attention to. And they are taking us back. They are trying to take us back to an era to where we were in chains and on ships, and then, well, eventually, but And that's just some of us, because as we all know, we were here first, okay? They came to our land. But the thing is, there is something in the law where it only takes one. When it passes in one place, other states look and say, okay, well, this state next door is doing it, so we should try it out. And when it goes in court, it's something called precedent. And so if one state passes it, then you have then this one state that is, or the next state that is looking into it, now has a reason to, or justification to pass it in their state. And so bringing you back to where I am, St. Louis is only about 2.5 hours from where I am. And again, both Kansas City, Kansas, Kansas City, Missouri, same situation. We have Black mayors, densely populated African American populations, Black populations. And now Kansas City, Kansas does have a Black district attorney. I believe, well, Kansas City, Missouri doesn't. But same situation can apply, because what happens on one side of the border always happens on the other side of the border. So what I mean is that normally whatever happens in KCK, what we call Kansas City, Kansas, happens in KCMO, which is Kansas City, Missouri, and vice versa. Whatever happens in Kansas City, Missouri, tends to happen in Kansas City, Kansas. And again, what happens just right down the road in St. Louis always ends up affecting what happens right up here. So watch what has happened in Mississippi has already touched what's happened in Missouri, St. Louis. And I am concerned that that same thing may happen in Kansas City, Kansas, and or Kansas City, Missouri, which both are densely populated African American cities with African American mayors, both states having both Republican-led legislatures, both in the House and the Senate. So no one wants to go back to Jim Crow era. No one wants to go back to a place where we had absolutely no rights. We have not walked fully into the rights that we are supposed to have right now. So to dial it back to an era where we had none whatsoever will be devastating. We are still trying to be seen as individuals, as people. We are still trying to have our children to not be adultified, and to have our sons to be seen as little boys and not grown men, so that they are not gunned down by police. We are still trying to be seen and not objectified as pieces of meat, so that when we as African American or Black women go missing, that someone looks up and cares, and not think that we are missing because we chose to leave for some sexual reason or some reason because our men who you've already deemed this group of derelicts have done something to us, or we have not abided by some rule or some standard, or even just outside of that, that you just don't care. We are still trying to get to a point where we have the right to be in neighborhoods and walk down the street or shop, drive in our cars, talk on the phone. Our children just sell lemonade on the street, sleep in our bed, and not have the police call or not wake up because of gunshots, simply because of the color of our skin. So again, we haven't even gotten to the point where we can enjoy or are even privy to the rights that we are supposed to have as people, as individuals, as citizens of this country. But we are watching them already being chipped away, city by city, by them passing laws right in our face, right in our face. And our legislatures, they're trying to do something about it. But when they are the minority, there's nothing they can do. There's absolutely nothing they can do because they are, when it comes to a vote and they don't have the vote, even if the governor, now Missouri, has a Republican voter, and Mike Parsons, he's not vetoing anything that Republican-led legislature is bringing to him. Governor Kelly in Kansas, she's awesome. I just don't see her allowing any of that nonsense to happen. I do see the legislature in Kansas. I see a lot of them going for this. And I do see a lot of them trying to make it happen. I do feel that we have a governor who would fight to not allow it to happen. However, like I said, everything is not veto proof because you have to have the voting number. So in this, I will say, I'm not sure where your state is in the election process, but I know we have a lot of elections coming up this year and next year. And there are a lot of seats that are coming up. And just like I said last week and every week, as long as we keep sending the same people back to Topeka, back to Jeff City, our capital city here, or back to DC, we are going to get the same results. Meaning, also, think about Kansas. And we made national news where, we passed and we got rid of the abortion situation. However, there are still laws that are being passed. We had one person who tried to introduce a bill. Well, she did introduce a bill to start their process all over again. And then also we have someone to come in to restrict the pill. So again, there are a lot of things that can come in and happen. So with that being said, you have to get involved. You have to know your rights. You have to exercise those rights before you're at a point to where you don't have those rights at all. So thank you guys for tuning in. I appreciate the feedback, and I will see you guys on the third Sunday. And I hope you have a great rest of your weekend. Be well. Okay.